for Murphy Chamber of Commerce for tackling this topic. I think that we can all benefit from today. We have a great panel on how to cope in today's world, where we'll be talking about strategies and tactics we can use to survive and maybe even thrive during this COVID crisis, contentious election cycle, and everything else that's going on around us. Our goal today is that you'll walk away with something new, some new knowledge, new ideals, new strategy that you can apply in your life right away. So here's the format to give you an idea of what to expect. We will start with a brief introduction of each of our panelists. Then I'll kick off the conversation asking some of the questions our panelists have said they're asked most often today. And then in the second part of our time today, we will address any specific questions that you have. If you have questions, feel free to go over to the Q&A box and start typing those in. We'll address them all at the end. But just remember, it goes into the Q&A box today and not the chat box. So let's get started then with some panel introductions. Gary Lucara is the owner of Socrates Tutorial Services. His company has earned the top pro awards for the last 5 years running in DFW. The tutors are really educational coaches in that they guide the student to the answer instead of giving it to them, so that they learn in a deeper way and remember. They really enjoy that they can open the possibilities of each student through better learning techniques. Danette Mann has a master's in education and an MBA and is the first and only mindful self-compassion MSc trainer and coach in the Dallas Metroplex. She is also a licensed professional counselor, registered play therapist, and is certified in eye movement desensitization, tongue done work, and reprocessing. She offices very close to the Galleria. She and her husband live in Dallas and enjoy spending time with their adult daughter and son-in-law. Also, we have with us Dr. Joseph Meyer. He is the medical director and physician owner of Wiley ER in Wiley, Texas. He graduated from Mayo Medical School, attended UC Davis for his emergency medicine residency, and is certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine. He was with the Presbyterian Hospital Dallas ER for 14 years. Dr. Meyer has been married to his wife, Marcia, for 26 plus years and has 2 girls and a boy. In his free time, Dr. Myers enjoys rock climbing, bike riding, and spending time with his family. And last, but most important, last is Nadia Task. Nadia is with Coaching by Nadia. She helps women re-energize their bodies and lives through a habit change in mindset, nutrition, and fitness. She is a certified health, life, and fitness coach. These are our panelists, guys. We've got some topics to tackle, but we're coming at it from all different directions. So with that, let's get started. When you think about mindset right now and what you're seeing in our environment around us, and Nadia, I'll start with you. What are you seeing with your clients?
You are what you think, you are what you say, you are what you do. And unfortunately, we've got this little voice in our heads. You're saying, what voice? That's that voice. It's our self-talk. So how we talk to ourselves is really how we live and how we produce actions and say words. I know in this hard, tough times, the self-talk may become a little bit more negative, but that is the important thing, is to really catch that thinking and ask yourself, if I was that person that inspires and motivates me, what will that person do? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it.
Thank you, Nadia. I know another issue that has come up for many, many people is the ability to get a decent night's sleep. And a lot of people are struggling with that right now. Danette, do you have any ideas or suggestions for people?
I have many, but I will talk about a few of them. It is hard to get to sleep, and that voice in our head, that running dialogue about what needs to get done that we didn't get done today and we'll have to move to tomorrow's list, and the worries and fears that we have about the virus and different things certainly play a role. And how our body is able to do what it naturally does, which is put us to sleep through chemical changes in the body around the time of night when we start to get sleepy. But our brain can actually be working so hard that we override that. So what I recommend are some of it is just health information, like limit alcohol intake. Try not to eat for 3 hours before you go to bed so that you've digested all of your food. I'm a big proponent of drinking peppermint tea or chamomile tea to just kind of settle. It's important not to be watching the television for about an hour before you go to bed, and certainly not watching the news or something that's going to be upsetting. Another thing that from my field that I believe is really helpful is if we can be in the present moment, then the things that are happening to us in that moment are usually fine. We're okay. We have a worry about getting something in the future, like this virus, but in this moment, we're okay. So if we can be in the present and allow ourselves to practice some appreciation for what we do have. And I encourage gratitude lists that are not looking for big things, but looking for little things. Like, I have 2 good pair of shoes that I can wear on any given day that will match all my outfits. That's a gratitude. I have a bed that I can stay in and stay warm at night. I mean, just small things. I have a house, I have a roof over my head. And having gone through the tornado, we were talking about that earlier. That's especially a big gratitude for me right now, because we do have our house completely reconstructed. In addition, you can do some meditations. There's several good apps out there that just provide like 10-minute meditations that you can listen to. And most of them now have stories, and you can fall asleep listening to a story that's read by a soothing voice. And if that doesn't suit you, there are sounds you can turn on to listen to sounds. I like reading. Yes, Insight Timer is one. I also like Calm a lot. There's some for kids as well. So there's a few. There's more than that, but hopefully that covers enough to get people started on kind of thinking through just what do you need to relax yourself, because that's really what it's all about. And each person can kind of decide for themselves, what are they doing that might not be contributing to being calm toward the end of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
No, thank you. Nadia, did you want to add something?
Yes, I'd like to add to what Danette mentioned. Amazing, yes. And in fact, I use my planner, and yesterday I decided I'm going to use the page for my gratitude list. So there are actually 2 things. Number 1 is I'm going to stay with just 3. What lessons did I learn? And number 2, 10 things I'm grateful for that happened today. So I'm going to do that. And to me, what also works for me is really reflecting on the day. If there's anything I need to speak out to myself in the way of the journaling, now is the time. Because once I release all the tension, all the thoughts, okay, now I've got space in my head to actually calmly fall asleep. And sometimes I actually prepare for the next day in my planner.
Thank you, Nadia. Gary, I know you work with performance, right?
Yes, I do. And, you know, I want to add into that conversation. One of the things we encounter with tutoring and career counseling often is people who are nervous about the interview, people are nervous about the test, etc. And I explain to them that it's not the event that is causing the problem, it's your reaction to the event that causes the problem. So it's really a matter of controlling your thoughts. And what my tutors do with the students and I do with the students, we ask them for their hand, we take their pinky and we squeeze it until it's paining them a little, not to break it or anything. And then we ask them to pick up their phone, look up our number and give us a call. Well, as soon as they pick up the phone and start looking through, they're not feeling the pinky anymore. And they admit that they're not feeling it because they decided that the call is more important than the pain in their pinky. And that's the proof that you can control your thoughts. So now what we tell them is go down to CVS or whatever, buy a dynamic heart monitor, the kind that can tell you whether your heart rate is going up or down, and train yourself to control your heart rate. When you can start to control your heart rate, and typically, you know, I've gone through minor surgery without anesthesia or dental work without anesthesia. When you can control your heart rate, now you can control your thought and your pain threshold, and whatever's bothering you during the day disappears because you've decided to let it go.
Gary. Dr. Meyer, I saw you shaking your head earlier. Did you have something you wanted to contribute on sleep? Because I have another question for you as well.
Yeah, sleep deprivation, that's a huge issue, unfortunately, in this country. And it's, you know, it's big for us, and it's also really big for our children. They don't get enough sleep. I gave a talk probably a year ago at Wiley High. I had 600 people in the auditorium. You know, the average high school kid needs about 9 hours of sleep a night. And I said, who got 9 hours last night? And 2 or 3 hands went up. So these kind of strategies are extremely important, and sleep is just vital to good health, even from a strict kind of medical perspective.
Okay. So
And you know, Dr.
okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dr. Meyer, you're absolutely on point, because with our students in high school, for example, we require that the boys get 9 hours of sleep, the girls get 9.5. Sometimes the boys will say, why do the girls need more sleep? And I'll tell them, well, ask your mother who woke up when you were a baby from your sleep. But as the doctor pointed out, it is critical to health. And there was a study a couple of years ago that we use, and what was found, and Dr. Ammon out of Georgia is a famous psychologist who has gone through this, and he discovered that for every hour you are chronically sleep deprived, you lose 20% of your capacity to think, your cognitive ability. So these kids in high school, as the doctor pointed out, their biggest problem is sleep. The secondary problem is, and there's another study a few years ago that came out with this, your brain cells are connected by a protein-based material. Well, if you're chronically sleep deprived, then your brain is producing a malformed protein, and your brain cells are not communicating at the highest capacity. So now we get into the food component. What do you eat? You have to have a protein-based diet.
Thanks, Gary. And Dr. Meyer, correct me if I'm wrong, but just about every kind of chronic illness is associated with lack of sleep as well, right?
Certainly can contribute. You know, and then in my profession, we do a lot of shift work. So, you know, we work night shifts, day shifts, we kind of flop back and forth. So they've done a decent amount of research into that. And they found that, you know, kind of shifting between day and night and the sleep deprivation, that's equivalent to like a smoking risk in terms of mortality and longevity. So it's the real deal. I mean, it's regulated for airline pilots, you know, truck drivers, and it's regulated for us, and to some extent it's extremely important for performance. It's a big deal.
So here's your hot seat question for the day.
Okay.
You know it's coming. Can you tell us where we are right now with coronavirus? Because I know that's the reason a lot of people are having trouble sleeping.
That's right.
What are you doing? What do I need to know?
Currently, so we're seeing a little tick up. All right, we had a big surge in July, and then it's been trending down nicely since then. We're seeing a little tick up in terms of activity, positive cases, but overall the death toll, that's still trending down nicely. So Texas has turned the corner on that, did that quite a while ago, and it's still trending down. So I think overall there's room for optimism.
Good news. Thanks.
Yeah.
So Danette, this is for you. I know with coronavirus, a lot of people have been isolating, and they're feeling and they're feeling like they just need to get out and socialize again. What do you recommend for them? How do they stay connected?
Well, we're all doing Zoom more than we've ever done in the past. My husband's birthday party last weekend, we had 2 Zoom parties, a happy hour and a luncheon. So we saw a lot of people, but only through the internet. But that's kind of a crazy thing, because as I understand it, it really affects the body to be doing all of these Zoom meetings, because your head thinks that you're with people, but your body isn't resonating the way it should, because you're not in the presence of those same people. So it's very tiring to do everything by Zoom. So I had someone the other day that put it, I thought, very well. She said to me, I wear the mask that they recommend. I go outside, I social distance, and I don't let it stop my life. So I do everything that I know is to be safe that I can do, and then I do what I want to do within those boundaries. But in addition, I actually think there are some silver linings that some of us are finding through this need to be distanced and trying to stay away from others as much as possible. I'm handwriting notes. And when you handwrite a note, you feel more connected to the person. I've actually written these little haiku poems. I don't know if y'all are familiar with a haiku poem. Is like a 5-syllable phrase, 7-syllable phrase, 5-syllable phrase. Very quick, very easy. And I send it to them. So I'm actually doing things for my friends that I'd kind of gotten out of the house, just thoughtful things. I do phone calls. Phone calls are wonderful, and we just kind of quit doing those, right? So I think there are ways. The other thing is, of course, I really highly recommend loving kindness meditation, because with loving kindness meditation, the person is in your heart. You're sending them your best wishes. And if you're doing self-compassion, you can give it to yourself as well. And so there's this nice emotional, spiritual connection that you can have with someone that you're not even seeing. So it's different, but I do think that those things make us feel better and give us something positive that we're doing, so that we're not just sitting back distressed because we can't do what we want to do. So those are some ideas.
I think a lot of people say they're having some really good conversations that they didn't have before because they were also busy.
Right.
A little bit deeper.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Annette. Nadia, this one's for you. People talked about the freshman 10. Now they're talking about the COVID 20. What do you tell people when they're talking about how do I stop this?
The pounds gain, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, the pounds.
Well, if you step aside, it's not about that. It's not about COVID. It's about what am I doing every day? What choices do I have to contribute into my weight gain or weight loss? Well, number one, yes, it's sleep. What's my sleep quality? Number two, I usually say you are what you eat. You heard that before. 80% of your weight success is what you eat. So what is the meal I'm consuming that is contributing into my weight loss or weight gain? Number three, movement. Yes, I'm a fitness trainer, but I don't encourage you just to dive into the fitness. Find something that you enjoy moving. Make a good time and have fun with it. Different variations. Maybe you go for a walk. Well, I do recommend you have at least one consultation, so you know if you want to start on the physical training, you know what your body needs. But so number one is sleep, number two is nutrition, number three is exercise, and it's choices. Every single second of the day, we get to choose what we do. And then it's up to you. I always say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, your choice.
Thanks, Nadia. Jeanette?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it's kind of cool because I'm used to going to the gym, and I found these online. I can do 30 minutes, 10 minutes. I can do dance. I can do Zumba. I can do all these different things. I didn't even know those things were available until I got stuck at home and had to find a way to move.
So I think we could probably all agree that we're learning to adapt to things that were there the whole time and we just didn't even know.
Or we didn't take the time or we thought we didn't have the time. I would say that's more appropriate.
And in fact, I had been coaching online even before COVID. And since COVID, what I realized, my clients realized this is even safer and better. I don't have to go spend money in the gym. I don't have to drive. I don't have to look some kind of different way. I can just wear home clothes and still have a great full body workout at home.
Now, I will say that I go to the gym all the time. So I've been going to the gym since they opened, I guess, 4 months ago. And again, you just have to be smart about how you do it.
There you go, making choices, right, Nadia? Gary, we were talking a little bit earlier about, meals. I think you mentioned it, Nadia, what you're eating, your nutrition. And I know that meals impact performance, right? Is that
Yes,
something
absolutely.
clients about?
Well, you know, especially with the students, and we also do internships. But what is one of the problems with students that their schedules are 28 hours a day is they try and grab something quickly to fill their stomach, but they're not thinking about what they're eating. And going back to what we really need, it's not a want, it's a need. We need a protein-based diet. And, you know, even vegans can have a protein-based diet. You got to limit your salts, your sugars, and fats, because they're not adding to your brain power. And I'm sure everybody else will agree, it's not adding to your muscle either. So we require our students also to eat a protein-based diet.
Thanks, Gary. Dr. Meyer, you were talking about working out. You know, we talked a little about sleep, about eating. What else can we be doing to take better care of ourselves and our families right now?
Yeah, exercise, sleep, hydration. I'm really big on hydration. The body's, 70% water. And, if you look at each cell in the body, it's filled with water. It's a little kind of biochemical factory. So hydration is huge. That's probably the biggest thing. I could sleep, hydration, exercise, diet. Those are big.
Thank you.
And fun.
Yeah, fun.
Okay.
Play.
Doing something fun.
Play, right.
Sure.
So one of the things I think that we're seeing and hearing a lot is just fear, even though people don't put that word out there.
Hmm.
What would you guys say, just coming from your different perspectives, which are all very different? How do we deal with the whole fear factor here?
Well, if I may, it goes to making a choice about what you're thinking about and controlling your thoughts. Again, going back to test anxiety, there can be no greater way of crashing and burning on a test than to fear the test. You have to take control of it. You can't worry about the question you just answered. You got to worry about the question that you're going to and think about it. So you really need to start training your mind about the way you think, rather than letting becoming a fireman to everybody else's thoughts.
So I'm the science guy, right? As a doctor, I like data, I like information. And to me, and I think we all could agree on this, that there's power in knowledge and information. So the better you understand your situation, the better off you'll be.
So what's the best way to get legitimate information, Dr. Meyer?
Oh, that's a
A lot
hard.
of stuff that's not legitimate.
Ooh,
That's a hard one. I have a hard time. So, as we go through medical school, residency, we're picking through the journals and breaking down the statistics and the size of the cohort, the group studied, and finding the flaws. Who's sponsoring the study? That's huge, right? So if you're looking at the evaluation of a new drug and then you see that it's sponsored by that same drug company, you got to throw it out, or at least be really scrutinize it. So, I've got that background. Certainly, my wife doesn't. Most of the people I know don't. It's very hard to get the good information. I know that's not a good example. The CDC website is good, but it's so large that I think it's kind of hard to navigate.
Mhm.
Really have to find a trusted healthcare provider if you want that kind of medical information on death rates, infectivity rates, your personal risk, how to protect yourself, how to protect your family. Now, how is this virus spread? And we can talk about that now or a little bit later, but it's hard. I would use the CDC. I like the American Academy of Pediatrics, and then a trusted healthcare provider for the medical information.
Yeah,
Not
the
the
Lancet,
Not the
that's,
news.
somebody's saying the Lancet. So I'm going to come at the fear from a different point of view. And that is the nervous system. Fear is a survival response to danger. And if it's prolonged, then it contributes to illness, it contributes to depression, anxiety, all kinds of things that we don't want. And it impacts the body as much as anything. And it's hard to even notice that sometimes because we're just so used to being revved up a little bit and anxious and fearful. So the nervous system needs to calm down, and we're really expected to have 50% of our day in the calm part of the nervous system, the parasympathetic, and 50% in the sympathetic, which is the more driven. And we tend to be, as a culture anyway, a little high. We tend to spend more time in that drive function than we do in the calm, the rest and digest, they call it. And when that is happening, then it's harder to, your system almost loses how understands how to get back to that. So, you know, the simplest, easiest thing to calm your nervous system is to take slow, deep breaths. And the out breath is what's associated with the parasympathetic. So if you lengthen your out breath, you will notice physically that your body calms down. So for fear, that's one way, because what that does is when you're in the parasympathetic, your prefrontal cortex comes back online and you're no longer in fight or flight. You're actually able to think clearly about what you can do to alleviate the fear to the best of your ability. You know, it's not about I can be 100% safe, but it's what can I do? Because I think when we can take action, when we feel like we can do something, we're not as susceptible to that fear. But other things that we can do on fear is take a walk, go slow. I call it sense and savor. You walk outside. You can do it inside too, but I mean, I love it outside if possible. But go outside and pretend you're an alien from a completely different planet and you don't know anything. And then just notice what catches your eye and then get really curious and go look at that, touch it, smell it. What is it about it you can see? And I'm always fascinated by what I learn about the natural world when I take time to literally just be completely focused on one thing. And I do that until I've kind of learned what I can learn, and then I move to the next thing. And that sense and savor kind of walk, which is a self-compassion strategy that we teach, is wonderful for, of course, bringing you back into the present moment, getting you out of your head and into your life. So those kinds of things, I think, are writing yourself a compassionate letter, writing a letter to yourself saying, this is really hard. I have fear right now.
It sounds like you're really expanding on like what Gary said about controlling what you're thinking, and what Nadia said about just showing gratitude and taking time to appreciate the little bitty things. You know, it sounds like you've taken and you just expanded ways of doing that, which is pretty awesome. Some really, really solid ideas on how to move forward and actually put those into play. Thank you. Nadia, I saw you had something to say there. So where were you going?
Bouncing off everybody else what you said. So I've got a psychology background. This is actually my major. And I'm always fascinated with how's the brain affecting what I think, what I do, what I eat. And I believe there are on top of my head, there are 4 types of fears. And they're really all based on our survival modes: safety, shelter; security, do I get to buy my food; being loved; and fear of transition, unknown. So for me, it's important to take a look and really be curious, what type of fear am I experiencing right now? Is it security? Okay, so just being curious on that and taking the breaths, amazing. You can actually trick your brain by calming yourself down with breathing. I believe it's 10 breaths, about 2 minutes, and your brain will think, oh, she's actually breathing calmly, I must be relaxed. And your body, physical body, is really relaxing. And I ask myself a question: what is one thing, after I'm relaxed, what is one thing I can do today, maybe right now, to move that needle forward, to move my life forward? Just one thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. Dr. Meyer, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yep, fear is, it has to be acknowledged, addressed, and again, for me, if I can get the information, right, once you understand, is the fear, what's the worst? Certainly lacking shelter, security is horrible, but I kind of think maybe fear of the unknown, right? The boogeyman that really terrifies us. So if you can get some information, it can really help. Even if it's concerning information, at least you know what you're dealing with.
So with that in mind, again, you're back in the hot seat because you got doctor in front, right?
All right.
COVID, what do we really know about how it's transferred right now?
It's so coronavirus is a cold virus, and we've known that. We test for a variety of types of coronaviruses, prior to this particular strain. So it's transferred like the common cold. It's transferred like the flu. The virus itself, that tiny little particle, very unlikely it's going to float through the air and land on your nose and get you infected. It travels in a droplet. So, when you sneeze and there's a spray, when you cough, there's a little bit of a spray. Even if you talk vigorously, right, there's, say it, don't spray it. That's the old thing when I was a kid. It'll be in that droplet. So the droplet is what will get you, not the little virus traveling by itself. That's very unusual. So that's where the 6 feet comes in, because that little droplet is going to fall to the ground, in about 6 feet. So if you're 6 feet or beyond, it's not going to get you. And that's kind of where the masking comes in, and really the social distancing, and which is unfortunate, right? Because we need to be close. It's a big deal, right, for human beings. But that 6 feet and beyond, you're going to be safe. Now, if somebody's sick, then, you need to stay home, which I think is very different for us now as a society, right? We used to work hurt, you're not feeling well, suck it up, go to work. Well, we don't want to do that anymore, because if you know you're sick and you're coughing, you're sneezing, you're going to get people, right? So you need to stay home. So then those of us that are out, the asymptomatics, right? If you maintain that 6 feet, you're going to be okay, because again, it comes through a droplet, and that droplet will fall to the ground in about 6 feet. Won't get.
So oftentimes we hear that more people have died from the flu than they have from COVID, so it's not a big deal. 2 questions on this one. Is it too late to get a flu shot, and should you get one?
No, it's not too late. It's just starting. So this year it's pretty important, because it'll help take the flu out of the equation. So normally every winter we have this big flu rush, and that's when we have our busiest time in the ER typically. So you've got the flu, and then there's always some sort of generalized crud. Somebody's sick, we think they have the flu, and is the test not picking it up, or do they have something else? So there's usually something else. Well, now this year we add COVID to that mix. So getting the flu shot can help at least get the flu out of that equation, and maybe keep you out of the ER, keep you out of the hospital.
Thank you. Nadia, I see you shaking your head again. Are there things we can be doing in terms of our health and fitness that might help us avoid some of the diseases, flu specifically, or even COVID?
First of all, while I'm doing this, I just enjoy being here and everybody's perspective. I can't say no to anything that I hear. That's why you constantly see me agreeing. It's thank you so much for this opportunity. Well, I believe the number one is really, how can I distress my body? Really catching where I'm feeling stressed. Right now, yes, I'm speaking in public. I have a little bit of heart rate. So I may catch myself and just breathing through this conversation, taking my breath and relaxing my body. So de-stressing helps your immune system. It strengthens your immune system. Water, Dr. Meyer mentioned at the beginning of our call. Movement, fitness is important. Again, it's all about how can I strengthen my immune system? What means can I utilize? It's every day as well, but now is more than ever.
Okay. And for you, Jeanette, all of this, the COVID, flu, kids being home, if you're a parent that have young kids that are in school, trying to school them, it's creating a lot of stress for most of us. What are some good coping strategies or some ways of dealing with that stress, so maybe it's not so detrimental to our health as well, mentally and physically?
Well, I would say one thing is to make sure that you keep yourself as a priority. So that sometime during the day, there needs to be some time for you to do something that you enjoy, to do something that's relaxing. 15 minutes.
Is that the intermittent fasting? When it comes down, put yours on before you try to put it on the kid? Okay, sorry.
No, that's exactly right. We say that a lot because we give more when we have more, right? If I'm depleted, I'm not really going to be at my best with my kids or my husband or even my tasks, right? So knowing that no matter how many things there are to do, and multitasking is really not very helpful. So, and it's very stressful to try to multitask. So if we can really focus on what has to be done next, and then next, and then next, and gain the cooperation of the whole family so that we're not trying to run everything ourselves, by ourselves. Especially, again, I would say especially women. I think women just tend to do that more, but obviously that would not be the case in all cases. But that life is still needs to be lived. Like, yes, we're going through a really tough, hard time, but it's our life. And it's the only one we get. So finding places where we can let go of things, not needing things to be perfect. Like the house doesn't have to be picked up 100% all the time right now. Our meals don't have to be color coordinated and, like we used to learn, you're supposed to have a yellow and a green. Yeah, just find something nutritious and eat it, like if it's a peanut butter sandwich and carrot sticks, fine, right? So really watch how hard you are on yourself in terms of what you're spending what you need to get done and how you get it done. Because what's important is not those things. What's important is feeling like you're getting through this, not just getting through, but actually thriving as much as possible within the confines of the fact that we're all stressed and hurting over this disease and the problems and the deaths and the loss it's caused. It's not a time to celebrate, but it's not a time to be really pushing ourselves to the max.
Thanks, Dana. Dr. Murray, I'm going to come back to you because we're talking about, the whole stress level. I know one of the things I've heard people say, well, I've had like 7 COVID tests and they were all, so people are testing for the sake of testing sometimes. What are some things we should be looking for that we should say we do need to see somebody? That's my first question. And the second one is, can you talk a little bit about the differences in the tests? Because I know there are different tests and people don't know.
Right. As far as what you look for, are you sick, right? How bad do you feel? And are you having trouble breathing, high fevers? You can tell, right? If you're not feeling well, you need to be seen and you don't want to stay away. And that goes for, even if it's a non-COVID thing, you've got people avoiding hospitals and ERs, they may have chest pain or some other issue that needs to be evaluated. So if you're not feeling well, you need to be seen. As far as the test goes, there's kind of 3 basic types of tests, and it does get a little confusing, but it's all about trying to pick up the virus. So there's the blood test, the antibody test. So stick a needle in your arm, sometimes they finger stick you, and they take your blood and they look at it. And we do that here at Wiley. It takes about 15 minutes to get it back. And we look at the antibodies. Has the body responded? Has it generated the antibodies to fight this virus? And then it gives you a profile. So there's 2 types we look at in there, and it can tell us, although it's not perfect, but it can tell us, are you infected now or were you exposed previously? And do you have immunity? So that's the antibody test. That's in your blood. The other 2 up the nose, they swab you, right? And I think now some of them are oral, but really the standard is to swab the nose. There's the PCR test, and I think you guys have probably all heard about that. And that's getting that genetic material from the virus. It's an RNA virus, so they find that little specific sequence that it will identify it as the COVID-19 virus, send it off to the lab. And that takes, we send it off, we usually have it within 24 to 36 hours. So that's the PCR test. And if you have that, well, see, nothing's perfect. And I think this is what the public's finding out. Your tests, they're good, but they're not perfect. So I was going to say, if you have evidence, say in your nose that you've got coronavirus, well, then you have it, right? You're contagious. That is good for telling you, acutely, hey, do I have it now? Am I sick? Especially if you have symptoms, right? Those 2 go on. Now we're finding that people, they're better and they continue to have a positive test, weeks and even months after, and they're actually not contagious. So nothing's black and white. So that's the PCR test, or I think what like if you want to go to Puerto Rico, you have to have the molecular test, and I think that's what they're talking about, a PCR. So that's what we do if someone's going to travel. Then there's the antigen test, and that's another one that we do here. Again, that's a nasal swab that takes about 15 minutes to get back, and that picks up one of the proteins, usually the surface protein off the virus, and tells you that if you've got it and you've got it now. Again, that one can linger and stay positive longer than you're contagious. So the antibody test, that's in the blood, and then the PCR test, which looks for the RNA, the genetic material of the virus, that's from the swab. That usually takes 24 to 36 hours. Some places, it'll take a week to get back. And then the antigen test, that's another swab, and that picks up a little piece of the virus, and again, tells you if you have it, in you.
So it sounds like there's two that tells you if you have it now, and there's
Yep.
one that tells you if maybe you had it before.
That's how I look at it. I look at that antibody test. Did I have it, back in April? That's why I like the antibody test. But otherwise, if you say, hey, I want to know now, we'll do, one or the other.
So, Dr. Meyer?
Yeah.
My understanding is that the antibodies are not lasting because I had COVID and I had a very mild case, and they told me that probably 2 to 3 months I might have antibodies. So they've sent me now an antibody test to take. But my understanding is that they find now that people can re-get this.
So how did they confirm your COVID? With the antibodies originally?
This nose swab.
Okay. I don't want to, ask you how ill you were, but there's false positives too, right? So
No, I definitely had it.
You had
Lost
it.
my
Okay.
smell. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't feel terrible, but I lost my smell and I achy and yeah.
The loss of taste and smell is a big one. That's pretty specific for it. Have you ever had the positive antibody? Did it ever come back? Did they check you for the antibody? Say, hey, you got them, right?
Yeah. And I got a negative test about 10 days later.
But you do have antibodies.
I don't know. I haven't done the antibody test yet.
Okay.
I just didn't come back negative.
See, I'd like the antibodies. I don't want COVID, but I'd like the antibodies, right? That's one of the silver linings. So yeah, your question is, I think it's really odd that we couldn't sustain immunity to this, right? Typically, when you're infected with something, you're not going to get it again unless it changes, like the flu, right? There's a new strain every year, and so we've got to immunize against the new strain. So yes, we should be immune to COVID. Now, there's some, initially the CDC, the last time I checked, they said they, to date, have not seen anybody reinfected with COVID. I think that's starting to be up in the air a little bit, and maybe it lasts 4 months. But overall, once you've had something, you shouldn't get it again. But you're right, there's a little bit of concerning evidence out there that it's a possibility.
I'll send my test results to Deborah, and she can get them to Julie or whatever, and get them because that's what I'm hoping to find out soon is if I still have antibodies. So
yeah.
And Deborah, if it's okay, there's one thing I forgot to mention on stress. Is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reason I want to give this information out is because it's not something that anyone will know about unless they're already familiar. So my training in mindful self-compassion comes out of the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, and their website is centerformsc.org. And they are hosting free hour every day, 3 or 4 of them, meditations that you can log on to Zoom. They'll send you the link. There's no fee at all. And they do a little bit of an intro. They introduce the subject. It's all going to be mindfulness or self-compassion based. And then they'll do like a 25 minute meditation, and then people are allowed to talk. And we get people from all over the world that join into this, and it's an amazing experience, and it definitely calms people who are online like that. It's so calming. And a person said the other day that one of the things that she absolutely loves about it is when it's over, everyone unmutes and they say goodbye to each other. And because a lot of people, this is like 100 people are signing in to do this, they get to know the names of other people and they say goodbye individually. It takes 10 minutes now for the goodbyes. And this woman said, in this particular time that she's going through, hearing her name and being able to see other people that she recognizes and is getting to know this way virtually is very important to her, that she's got a name and that people are seeing her for who she is. So that's something that's absolutely free, 45 minutes. It's supposed to be 45 minutes. It tends to go a little bit over because of the goodbyes, but
Jeanette, can you pop that website into the chat box? So if
Sure.
anybody wants to pick it up, they can grab it. Thank you for
Sure.
sharing. We're gonna go ahead and shift over to some questions now. So if you are listening and you have a question, please type it in the Q&A and I am gonna take a look over there and see where we start. Let's see. This is from Linda Yo. Dr. Meyer, in several of our networking groups, many members are beginning to meet face-to-face, although we are still doing Zoom. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Should we still be a little more cautious about that?
About meeting face to face? No, I think it's a good thing. And that's why it's important to understand, if you're not feeling well, then no, you should not meet face to face. And then how it's transmitted, it gets back to those droplets. So if you can maintain, Lon's sitting over there and he's got his mask on, but he's pretty far from me. And if you can maintain, you're 6 feet or so, that's good. You're okay.
Okay, so here's the
That's a
question.
good thing.
Here's a question I have that comes up a lot. When you're wearing a mask, who are you protecting, yourself or the other person?
You're not protecting yourself. Now we wear them in healthcare. They've got to be worn properly. I mean, really tight around the nose, or the surgical mask, and then up tight around the ears. And then if you really want protection, you wear that N95 mask. You have to be fitted for those. So they wave a little fragrance in front of you and see if you can smell it, and you find that good seal. So you're not, these cloth masks and things that people are wearing, you're not protecting yourself. You are potentially protecting others, and it gets back to those droplets. So you can see how a mask would help. Again, if you're close to grandma or something and you don't want to transmit it to her, it could capture those droplets, knock them down, and prevent them from spreading. So it'll help protect others. But again, it's all about that social distance. If you're beyond that 6 feet and you're feeling okay, you don't necessarily need it. And even the CDC will say that.
Can I ask a question of Dr. Meyer around that same issue?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't want to take away from the other people, but I've wondered about this, and I see clients in my office and we distance, but I'm in an office building. What is about the air system?
Right. And we do that here too. Like we'll seal the rooms and we let the air exchange, but that's really for an airborne virus. It gets back to, is that little bitty COVID virus floating around in the air, and we got to exchange the air to get it out. So pretty unusual to get it like that. It's going to be the droplet. So I'm not so worried about the air system. I'm more concerned about the droplets. That's why I can go to the gym or even a hot yoga class, right? As long as I have my separation, and hopefully people aren't sick.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank
Meyer.
you.
Yes.
Another question. This is for you too, I'm guessing here. It says, I've heard that if you've gotten the flu shot, you will test positive for COVID, even if you don't have symptoms. Is that true?
Because of the flu shot?
If you've gotten the flu shot, then you'll test positive for COVID.
No.
There you go. There's the answer.
No. It goes back to what we talked about, right? That little particular sequence of RNA that they're looking for. That's not in the flu. And the antigen that we test for, that's not in the flu. So no.
Gary, this one's for you. How much time should I put into a presentation when I'm preparing for one?
Well, it's a matter of studying and your brain's capability to retain information and absorb information. And studies have consistently shown that after 15 minutes, if you're graphing it, it's like going off a cliff. So we always tell our students not only to study 15 minutes per subject, not an endless study. And the proof is if they study in the afternoon for hours, they retain almost nothing the next day. But also do your preparation or your studying just before you go to bed. If you do that, you'll retain upwards of 85%, but don't spend more than 15 minutes. Now, if you got a presentation that's really big, you're going to take a few days to prep. But gathering the information is not the same as preparation. So I'm only talking about the preparation side of it for
Thank
an
you.
efficient way of studying.
Thank you. Naja, this one is for you. I know I need to exercise, but don't want to be in the gym yet. What's the best program at home?
Thank you for the question. Well, again, look at what is your goal? What do you need to achieve or want to achieve that you're talking about fitness? Is it a weight loss? Is it strength training? Do you want to just have a better balance, gain some muscle? What is it? Therefore, the program will be specifically for what you need. Also think about what limitations do I have? Are you cleared by a doctor or physical therapist to exercise? Maybe ask for one-on-one consultation from a trainer. What can I do to make sure that I'm doing the right thing? When you know, hey, go find on Google or YouTube some options. For the balance, you can even type in balance exercises. And again, the number one is safety. And number two is have fun.
Okay, thank you. Danette, this one's for you. I think there's so much suffering right now, and I feel helpless to do anything. What is a way to best handle this feeling of helplessness?
Well, we can feel very helpless. There's a lot that we can't do. So I think it's actually there's an exercise that I think can be really helpful. Not that this would be the only thing to do, but just as an idea, whatever it is that you're feeling helpless about, whatever the problem is, you draw three circles, a center circle and a bigger circle and then a bigger circle on a piece of paper. And in the middle, you put that problem. In that inner circle, that second circle, you put the things that you cannot do. What am I, these are things I cannot impact, right? And then in the outer circle are things that you can do. So it's a way of defining what I am capable of, what actions I can take. So for instance, if your issue is someone in your family is really sick with COVID, for instance, and you can't see them, you can't be with them, there's a lot that you can't do. So the center circle would be, my dad has COVID, right? And then in that other circle, it would be, I cannot be with him. I cannot take him things that I can give to him. I might be able to, and that would go in the outer circle, I might be able to make something and give it to a nurse or someone who does have access to him and get it to him that way. And it comes down to, if we can take any action at all, that sense of helplessness is reduced. And if that action is simply prayer, positive thought, doing a loving kindness meditation where you're trying to send that person some good feelings, writing them a card, or ordering something that gets delivered to them. There are usually things that you can do. It's just that the things we tend to want to do are sometimes not allowed right now. So it kind of follows the serenity prayer. The things that we can't do, just recognize and let it go. And the things that we can do something about, then we can try. And if it, yeah, so.
Thank you. Dr. Meyer, when it comes down to quarantine recommendations and wearing a mask, right now, what are the best recommendations for us? Should we wear a mask when we're just walking down the street, or do we only put it on when we go close to people?
Right, when you go close to people. So if you're driving down the road in your car by yourself, you don't need a mask. That's going to get you. If you're outside and you're with people in your own household or by yourself and you have the appropriate distance, you don't need a mask. Again, who are you going to hurt, right? Because it's about protecting others. So that's what it comes down to. If you're going to get close to somebody and if you can't maintain that distance, that's when you put your mask on.
And if you know that you have been around someone who has COVID, what do you recommend in terms of quarantine?
So what the CDC will tell you, and we tell this to everybody, even if you have a negative test and you've been exposed, you're supposed to quarantine 14 days from exposure. That's pretty broad. So, I mean, that's the line. But the question is, are you really exposed? Are you sick? Again, I think if you wear your mask, especially when you're close to other people and you're feeling healthy, it's hard to recommend that you should. They say quarantine, and that's probably the safest thing to do if you know you've had an exposure. I'd probably have to stick with that. But again, if you're masked and you're feeling well, you're probably fine.
Okay, thanks. So the topic for the panel discussion, was all about coping, right? So this guy's hot seat again for all of you. If you could only tell people 3 things that they should be doing right now to help them cope and get through all of this madness at one time, right? What would those 3 things be? I'm taking volunteers, by the way. Nadja.
Whatever came to my mind. This was not prepared question. Love yourself, love others, look up the sky, open your arms, and smile.
Okay. Thanks, Nadja. Gary?
First and foremost, and I mean second place is light years back, is sleep. If you don't have sleep, you don't have the cognitive ability, you're not going to be able to do anything to your highest capacity. Second thing is to control your thoughts and learn how to control yourself, and especially if you can control your autonomous systems, then you can control your thoughts. And the third is deal with reality. If everything is a priority, by definition, nothing's a priority. So prioritize each day and take the time to write it down. Just take 5 minutes of what your priorities are. You may change it. You may put out a fire one day, but you can't be putting out fires all day, because all you're doing is reacting to everybody else instead of doing it for yourself.
Thanks, Gary. Danette?
I would say first and foremost, being kind to yourself. And that means things like if the news upsets you, limit how much you watch. If there are things that you can do that really make you feel more positive, like stretching, movement, eating something that is healthy but tastes great, do those things for yourself. Journal, read books, take care of yourself, and know that it's okay to prioritize you. And of course, giving out that same thing to others is also very helpful.
Thanks, Nadja. Danette, sorry, brain dead. Thank you.
Dr. Taylor.
You guys are like on top of you. Dr. Meyer?
Avoid the news, get some sleep, and exercise. Since I only get 3. Obviously, eat well, drink plenty of water. And
Yeah, I heard that.
stay close to your loved ones.
Yeah.
Stay in contact, however you need to do that.
So we did have one more question pop up in the Q&A, and then we're going to hand it back to Julie. And this one's for you, Dr. Meyer. It says, I have heard to take zinc, D3, and vitamin C to help fight or prevent COVID. Your thoughts?
Right. So I've already had 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C this morning. I've already had my 50 milligrams zinc. I try to get a little sun, so I'll get outside, lay in the sun a little bit. And yeah, it can certainly help. And I'm doing it, and as are a lot of my healthcare colleagues. You bet.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Dr. Meyer, Nadja, Danette, Gary, you guys have been awesome. Really appreciate the insight that you guys have shared with us. And thanks again to the Murphy Chamber for making this happen. With that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Julie. And I hope everybody has at least one thing they can take away and work with. If you don't, you probably need to watch this again. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Deborah, thank you so much. You did a great job moderating, and to the panel, wonderful discussion, very interesting. Thank you so much for being part of this panel today. All right, so at this time, we have the chance to introduce our sponsor, who is Ted Ling, who works at Murphy Dental and Implant Center. So let me go ahead and allow Ted here to be seen. And Ted, you have 5 minutes to present. Go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Oh, hi.
Hi there.
Hello. Yeah, so thank you, Julie, for giving me the chance to sponsor this event. And yeah, it was great hearing all the discussions. And as dentists, we are also, I'll say, heavily affected by this. And we had to close for 2 months. So it's a very difficult time for us as well. And yeah, I just want to come on here and say hi. And thank you for the opportunity for me to be here. And we are a dental office in Murphy Road. So it's North Murphy, close to Parker. And we just opened last November. And if you remember, I joined a few times of the conference. And we're doing great. We're specialists. We see dental implants. We treat periodontal disease. I'm a periodontist, so you can come to me if you have a gum disease, you need an evaluation, everything like that. And my wife, Dr. Tai, we're partners in this office, and she does all the general dentistry as well. And we do have good technologies, CBCT scanners, and everything like that. So yeah, just wanted to come and say hi. And thank you all for the great discussions. And everyone be safe and take care. Julie, I think I'm done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was on mute. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you there. Thanks, Ted, for the information that you gave, and thank you for sponsoring this program. At this point, I will recognize any city or state officials who are on the call today. So I'd like to recognize Maggie Smith, who's with Congressman Van Taylor's office, for joining the call. Thanks, Maggie. I'll give you a virtual wave there for attending. Also, we have Betty Scroggins on the call, former council member and former chamber ambassador. Betty, it's great to have you joining the call today. Also would like any new members or new attendees on this call, if you would like to say anything. I'm looking through the chat and I don't see anyone that I believe is a brand new member. So at this time, I will go ahead and introduce Steve Dalt with our Scholarship Foundation to go ahead and give a few updates. All right, Steve.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the panel. I think that was a very informative and great discussion. Thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge with all of us. We've got some great news for the scholarship. As you know, with COVID, our largest fundraiser was canceled, Funkin' Chunkin'. But we've had some people step up. We now have 3 people who have sponsored scholarships. So Sampak Auto Group will have a scholarship named after them. We have an individual, John Smith, and he would like to name a scholarship after his mother, who was a teacher for many, many years and is now retired. Her name is Linda Smith. And Dalt Financial has also sponsored a scholarship for this year. So we've got half of our scholarships covered. That's great news. And of course, I'll have some news coming up. We're working on some fundraisers. One of them isn't finalized yet, but Honey Baked Hams has a program for nonprofits that 15% of the proceeds from gift cards, if you purchase it the right way, goes to the nonprofit organization. So for example, if you bought a $50 card, that'd be $7.50 that would go to the Scholarship Foundation. So we'll be setting that up and we'll be sending links to everybody. And that's a great gift at the holiday season. We did this for, well, not we, but I participated. My son's choir group was going on a missionary trip, and it was just a great way to say thanks. You know, we bought a $50 card for Thanksgiving and sent one to my mom and my sisters, and it was a great way to raise money and also give a gift at the same time. So none of that money comes out of your pocket. If you buy a $50 card, they automatically make a donation. So excuse me, allergies are bad today, and I'm starting to get a little plugged up here in my throat. But thank you, everybody, for your support of the Scholarship Foundation, and we look forward to a great year, and it doesn't look like we will have any problem in giving away our 6 scholarships this year. So thanks again, everybody. And if you're interested in naming a scholarship, reach out to me, and we would love to name a scholarship after you or your company. Thank you. You're still muted, Julie.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the updates on behalf of the Scholarship Foundation. Well, it looks like we will be wrapping up a little early, but again, I wanted to extend a sincere thank you to the panelists. You did a wonderful job. Appreciate all the information. Also want to thank Deborah Austin for being our wonderful moderator today. Really appreciate that. And again, if anyone, there should be information in the chat for the panelists' information. If you did not get information and you'd like to follow up with anyone today on the panel, I'd be happy to get you their information. Just send me an email, jrichards@murphychamber.org, and I will gladly help you out and get you in the right direction. So with that, I want to wish everyone a good rest of your afternoon. Stay healthy, stay well, and be kind to yourself.
Thank you, Julie.
All right, thank you.
Nice to meet you,
Julie.
Nadia.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Deborah, and everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Now go out and make a smile.
That's right.